a lot of people who want to do the Goetia, do the Lesser Key of Solomon, or even the Grimoire and Verum, and who want to contact the entities in there because obviously there's something in their life that they're not satisfied with, and they think that working with these so-called demons will help them achieve that. And yes, it can really help with a lot of things. It can fix relationship problems or cause them. You can definitely get items back, and you can definitely improve people's health or learn a new skill. But what happens a lot of times is people go into this work with the wrong mindset. And what I mean is some people read the old grimoires and think, well, I'm God and I'm all-knowing and I can just order these entities around and just do what I want. Like, I'll tell you to do this and you just have to do it because I'm God. And like, yes, that's true. But the problem is sometimes people order these entities around to do things that ultimately do not serve them because they're in this like I'm all knowing and know everything, and they really don't, because they really don't have the right information to make a good decision. And this can happen a lot with get your ex back spells, which is like a really terrible example because you think like that solves all your problems, getting your ex back, because it's like, okay, money problems, if I get my ex back, then, you know, he made money, so then I can make, you know, like maybe he'll be so messed up he'll never be able to work again, so you don't really want him back. And that's just one example. So having a dialogue with the spirits and just being more aware that you may not have the wisdom to really get the best results when you force these kinds of things. And then the other thing I see is people coming at it from like a demonolatry or like a pagan perspective. And this is really like the worst. But then they're applying this Christian logic of blind obedience. Like, don't do that. Don't do that. It's a really terrible idea. It would be like asking like a random friend something and then just go do it. Like, no. Sometimes these spirits have their blind spots, and sometimes they show up without eyes, in case you didn't get the point. And things that they're not necessarily that good at, and things they don't tell you. Because they all have areas of expertise. And one thing I will say about Belial is, if what you need to do is expand your network and grow your audience and all that stuff, he's probably not the best choice. Go with Astaroth. That's just one example. So even though the spirits can kind of go beyond what their list of expertise is, and, you know, there's also a limit to that in terms of where their help would be most helpful and where it is not helpful. And in terms of getting guidance on this, again, I want to talk about the higher self piece. And a lot of people confuse the issue and say, well, you need to know your higher self and have like knowledge and conversation with a holy guardian angel and have like an 18-month ritual of like, you know, taking a vacation from the world, and, you know, they just make it overly complicated, and then nobody does anything. They sit on an armchair and are miserable. That's not what I mean when I talk about higher self. So the higher self is the version of you who has the life that you desire, and we're talking the whole life, not just one thing that was fixed but broke everything else, because that's a thing that can happen. So being on board with your higher self and having that communication with your higher self, and there are several ways to do this, and divination can certainly help you with this. Paying attention to your dreams and meditating and journaling about those meditations. And it can get pretty in-depth, but don't think like, ooh, I just did a ritual and now I'm like forever in contact with my higher self, because it's got to be an ongoing communication type of thing. And sometimes people get out of the habit of conversing with their higher self because they get so wrapped up in what other people want, taking on other people's emotions and thinking, oh, you know, my dad wants this, so that's what I want, or my friend wants this, so that's what I would like. That's not communicating with your higher self. So hopefully that just gives you some mindset tips to get started working with these beings. Or maybe you just want to take a step back and work on communicating with your higher self a little better first. Either way.